manager or a manager who wants to run reports? Can they have roughly the same look and feel and all the information coming live from the same interface or from the same background tool? So those are some of the things that our customers are feeding back to us. So just before we go on to CodeBeamer and focus on that, the last couple of pointers we want to do is just identify that there are some central and distributed code management challenges as well. So we're going to give two examples. Both of them happen to be open source. So the first one being Subversion. Subversion is a very credible alternative to the commercial tools that are out there today. It fulfills many of the requirements needed in today's development environment. Subversion is believed to be the fastest growing SCM tool on the market today. And that information comes from a number of different sources, and all the sources point to the same thing, that it is very rapidly increasing in its demand in terms of the number of downloads and its usage. Does it have all the functionality that the major vendor tools have? Well, generally not necessarily all the functionality, certainly not. I can certainly think of some vendor tools out there which has a lot more functionality. The question really to ask yourself, and that customers regularly ask themselves, is does it have enough functionality to do the job that you need it to do? Quite often people are investing in large commercial tools and actually only end up using 40, 50, maybe 60% of all the functionality that's there. But if you look at that functionality, the chances are very high that you might find it in tools such as Subversion. But Subversion is without a doubt a centralized tool. It works by having all the data stored locally, or centrally I should say, and people pulling their own working copies down. So Subversion's strengths are scalability, the administration, geographical distribution of it. It's all very, very easy. All merging and work is done locally, so it's not server-based where the actual merging is done. So there is very little impact on the server itself, and that's one of the key strengths of Subversion. What Subversion does not provide a graphical client itself. That's not part of the open source project. If you go into Google, do a search, users R&D support for choice. Large numbers of open source, and of course there are commercially written tools providing that graphical interface and lots of other value-add tools. And that of course is some of the things that Clearvision does. We as a company also add value-add products to the likes of Subversion. If you're not a Subversion user, then the de facto kind of standard for Subversion for Windows is very often Tortoise. If you're in a Linux world, well not just Linux of course, but certainly the Linux world tend to use Eclipse. And those are a couple of examples that you can see on the screen. So I just want to step through the centralized model very briefly. So we can see here that indeed the concept is that you commit, you put in your changes centrally, a developer updates, pulls those changes out, they then commit again, and we just keep repeating that process. So everything goes centrally to the server. With a distributed model, allows you to work in a similar way to, say, Subversion, centralized. So if you want to, a tool such as Mercurial can push your changes centrally. But it also allows you to go effectively peer-to-peer. To be able to do that peer-to-peer communication, it has some value or some strengths which maybe Subversion doesn't have. Other distributed tools are also tools such as Git. That's very much a distributed model, also in the open source arena. So the reason for showing you these is that, again, the point we're going to make is that CodeBeamer itself doesn't come specifically with a version control tool. You'll see later that it's enabled or allows it to interface to a number of different version control tools. So Mercurial benefits, for those of you who have not maybe heard of Mercurial or seen it, again just a couple of pointers we want to get from here. So complete that every artifact inside Mercurial has its own indexing UID. And that's what enables merging to happen from peer-to-peer very easily. Distributed development model supports unlimited number of developers. So because it's more peer-to-peer, who cares about who's out there? People can share their repositories to any number of other repositories. And of course you can go back centrally as well. Equally for the same reason, because it's not peer-to-peer, you send your changes to other people, they pull them, there's no waiting for locks. So there are advantages. I'm not suggesting either of these are right for your organization, but there are certainly a number of advantages to these open source solutions. So CodeBeamer. As I mentioned earlier, the reason for showing you those different version control tools is that we can see with, on the right-hand side, CodeBeamer allows via its SCM API to interface to a number of different version control tools. On the left-hand side, we can see that the interfaces, there are via, again, the Web Services API, we can connect to a various number of different interfaces. Eclipse isn't shown there, but it is available also. And centrally, this is a web-based tool written in Java, and it allows, or it gives the users a common look and feel. Doesn't matter whether they're doing change management, whether they're managing the repository, whether they are doing requirements, whether they're doing builds. The interface is quite common between projects. So as we mentioned, we don't have enough time to go through every item. So we just highlighted here a number of things which we are going to concentrate on later. So coming up, we're going to be talking about, again, the community side of things with CodeBeamer. There is a, in this particular example, what we're seeing here is that a developer in India with an Eclipse interface has the same plugin look and feel as though we're using it via the browser in the UK by a project leader. So those, the list of records there, which happen to be change records, they're known as trackers, are listed in the Eclipse interface. But it's common look and feel again. In this example, what we see here is a project manager who has a state transition, a change set, again known as a tracker item. So it could be a bug, it could be a new functionality, it could be enhancement record types. We've got somebody that raises an issue. It will go through the state transition process and effectively be assigned to a developer or a number of developers who work on that defect. As they perform their commit, if they're using something like Subversion, they will register that UID, that raise bug 1000 via its unique identifier, as they perform their commit, thus recording change sets. So we know exactly which files were changed for which issue. And that is a common thing throughout the whole of CodeBeamer. We talk about, in this example, tracker items, defects, enhancements, new functionality. But as you'll see later, because CodeBeamer's strength is very much that it's got a very strong wiki engine, that effectively any items can be tracked against in this manner. We can also do periodic builds. Built into CodeBeamer is the ability to run build sessions. I'm going to actually, if the demonstration goes right, at this point when we come over to the build session, I'm actually going to hand over to Martin and he will take you through this last part. However, in this example, we can see that in the top left-hand corner, a developer is going to perform a commit. There are different kinds of builds that we can set up, one of them being maybe a delayed build after commit. It will run automatically. Depending upon the results, it will always write maybe into the log messages, but also it will write into, if it's configured, to write into a forum. Its success or its failure. Being a forum, people can subscribe to that forum and get the latest updates about their builds, which have automatically built based upon a commit. So you've got automated building there.